Welcome back to another episode of Red Hawk Media. Today we're talking podcasting, and I mean we're talking. So let's go ahead and get started here. We've got our opening project for GarageBand, and this time around we're going to choose the voice option, and that will set us up for microphones right away. So let's go ahead and choose that, and we're going to go ahead and click choose. Now, while I'm waiting for GarageBand to open up, there are a couple things that I should really check to make sure that I am using the microphone or headset mic that properly. Whatever recording device you have, of course, it's going to be plugged into your Mac, and you can use the built-in microphone that's in your computer, but if you want a better recording without all the background noise, interference, all that kind of stuff, you definitely want some kind of headset or mic that you can record to, whether it's USB or it's the two little mini headphone plugs. This case right here, it's asking me if I want to use the Sound Blaster Tactic 3D Fury, and that's the name of the headset that I've got here, and I'm going to click Use. Now, to make sure that your headset is actually properly set up, you want to go up to the System Preferences, and you want to go to the Audio or the Sound option here. Now let's go to Sound. And in here, for both tabs, input should be checked as your USB or wherever your microphone is plugged into, because that's your input. And then the output should be, of course, your headset, which is the headphones, and in this case, it's the same exact thing. Okay, when both of those are set up, you're all good. Now, if you're a little bit softer spoken, and the microphone's not picking you up that well, here's a great place to kind of check what you're doing here. You can always turn this up, and then it's going to pick you up even more. And then I tend to speak pretty loud, so I put it down on the first marker right here. And that usually gives me some pretty good sound, some sound bars to work with for volume. Okay, let's go ahead and close that up. And we are back to GarageBand. And you can see that it is picking up my audio right now. And that's the narration for the vocal. And there's a bunch of them that are pre-created on here that have all kinds of different effects on them. For the time being, you can go with a plain Jane kind of no effects recording. And then after that, you can customize your voice a little bit more. Okay, so I'm going to start off with the narration vocal. And wherever my playhead is here, wherever I set that up, if I hit record, it's going to go ahead and it's going to start recording my voice here. Now, record is at the top of the screen here. If I hit record, right away it's picking up my voice. You can see the animation of the waveforms and all that going on here. Now, I can hit record again to stop it, and then I can hit stop. Okay. Now, if I go back and I listen to this, I can hear everything. And I can hear everything that's going on in here, the same exact recording. From there, I can go ahead and make my changes to my volume and all that. I really highly recommend, if you're doing some kind of podcast, public service announcements, commercials, radio show, a mixtape for your girlfriend or boyfriend, whatever it may be, do kind of a trial run first. Get your mic all set up. Make sure that the puffer is in place. That's the little thing that's over the end of the mic. So that you're not picking up all the hard consonants, the P's, the T's, and even the S's. It cuts back on. So get that all set up so that it's exactly the way that you want here. Now, I've got pretty much everything all set up the way I want. It's picking up my volume. I've got some room to turn this up so that it's louder, and you'll see that the waveforms increase a little bit, and lots of flexibility. That's pretty much it for creating the podcast. That's the recording part. My only caution is, as you are starting and stopping this possibly, getting things absolutely perfect, wherever the playhead is where it's going to record. So if I have the playhead right in the middle of my recording here, and I hit record, it's going to start writing over the other stuff that I previously had. And you can see now it's created this new track right in the middle of my old track, and that's really messed some stuff up here. Now, if I need to, I believe I can just hit Command-Z and go back, and that'll bring back the original narration that I had. But just something to watch out for. Now, the other thing that I can do once I get my recording done is I can come in here and I can kind of fine-tune some stuff. You can see dead spaces. If I'm doing a public service announcement and time is of the essence, like I need to have exactly 15 seconds or 30 seconds, these spaces in between where there's nothing going on, I've got some long pauses, those are going to be important to kind of trim down and get rid of. One of the ways I can do that is with the track selected, I can click on the scissors over here. Now that I've got the scissors selected, it'll bring up the waveform down below. Now I can see everything that's going on down here. Let's go ahead and stretch this up a little bit so we can see everything that's happening here. Let's go ahead and stretch this out a little bit so it's a little bit easier to work on. So I've got the magnifier over here for this area down here. Now what I can do is I can go ahead and highlight areas. Oh, I don't want to drag that anywhere. I want to click in here and I want to be able to cut. So let's go to right here. I can always trim it, I suppose, just like this. So I fine-tune this, get it all set up. Right there's where the pause happens, and I can hit Command-T to split it. Now I can go ahead and go over to the other part here, getting rid of a little bit of this, and I can split that and hit Command-T. And now I've got this middle segment that has nothing in it. Now you got to be careful how much you trim because if I take out all the pauses in between, it's going to become an unnatural speech pattern, and it's going to sound rather strange. So I can go ahead and delete that out of there, and then I can take these two and I can fine-tune them by moving them together. Okay. The other thing you want to be careful is, see this gap that I'm leaving in between here? Now it may not seem like a big deal because it's going to be absolutely silent right in that gap there. I mean, nothing is going to be playing at all. And despite the quality of your mic, chances are you're getting a little bit of ambient noise or just background noise or fuzz or something that's very, very minute, but it's going to sound weird because you're going to have that weird little ambient noise thing going, and then you're going to hit that dead space, and then you're going to have ambient noise, and then you're going to have your voice. And it's going to be very obvious that this clip was not actually put together. Okay? So if you really wanted to be technical about how to do that, you could always just get a recording of your room without you saying anything. So wherever you're recording at, you can always get the scratch audio and pretty much just get kind of a template for the ambient noise. And then whenever you have these cuts like that, you could always piece that ambient noise in there. So I could technically just go to the end here or go to another track, but let's do it right on the same one so it's the same sound. And I just hit record here and say nothing. Okay, now I've got that background noise recorded, and I can kind of fill it in here so that now it's going to match up exactly with that dead space in there. And it's not going to be a weird transition. Let's grab the bottom corner here. And now we won't notice that weird transition that's in there. So a little bit of a technique for cutting clips and getting rid of stuff. Some tools for you to use and try out and experiment with. Yeah, that's the basics of a podcast here. Now the only other thing we have to talk about is exporting. Once I get all done here, I should always drag in my endpoint here. So I get that set up right at the end of where my podcast is going to cut off, so I don't have any dead space in here. So I get that right to the end, and now I go up to share, and I can send the song to iTunes, or I can export the song to disk. Okay. Now, if I'm using iTunes as kind of like a service to upload my podcast, that'd be the more likely place to send it. Podcasts are usually 128 bits so that they're easy to stream and download. So I keep that exactly the same, make it an MP3, give it a name, podcast, and then I go ahead and export that. And it's going to be right on my desktop as long as I choose that, and export. We get a little bit of a mix down. This is so short it doesn't even have to do that. And then we are all set. On my desktop, I now have, let's see here, podcast, looking for it. Here it is, right here. So now I can go ahead and play that back. All right, and that's pretty much it. That's all there is to making a podcast in GarageBand. Pretty simple. Next time we'll talk enhanced podcast and take a look at how we can add some basic graphics in there to supplement the audio. Thanks for joining us for another episode of Red Hawk Media. Bye.